Does anybody have any extra Kleenex? Down, up, up, up. Okay. About 3 years ago, my name is Jon Veinberg. About 3 years ago, Phil comes up to me, he has a glass of wine in his hand. He says, "Hey, I got something for you." So I reach for the wine. He goes, "No, no, 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 you buy your own." He says, "Wait till afterwards, after the reading." He gives me a package. Inside that package is this jacket. I'm losing it right now when I think about that jacket, because this is the jacket he wore in the first class I ever had with him. So I'm just overtaken by it. A little while later, I tell him how touched I was that he gave me that jacket. I mentioned the jacket in an essay I wrote about him. He says, "Well, I was touched by your essay." And then he says, "But don't tell anybody." And I said, "Why not?" He says, "I don't want anyone to know that we touched each other." That's, and I proceeded to talk to him about the circumstances surrounding why I ever took his class in the first place. And I thought, decades had passed now. I thought I was making some pretty profound statements on fate, destiny, metaphysics. And Phil, you guys who know him recognize that look, that wild, warm, witty look. That somewhere out of that deep, deep well of smartassness that he loves to drink from, he just looked at me and said, "Sometimes it just pays to be stupid." And that was me. I agreed with him, and I still do. But I remember that class, I truly do, as if it were last week. He gave, and this is over 30 years, 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, he greeted us with about 20 minutes of stand-up comedy that would make Lenny Bruce proud. I thought he was the Jewish Richard Pryor. Speaking of, he was Mel Brooks on acid. He really, really was. And I thought, man, I'm staying here. I'm not leaving. And of course I didn't. Basically, I stayed in that class for 40 years. Of course, this is all off the cuff now. Now I got to get business. It was an unbelievably funny class. Am I still speaking okay? I've been at okay. David? Okay. Have you ever tried 20 minutes of comedy? Phil just did it off the cuff. That was an amazing feat. And then, you guys have heard the same. I've been at a lot of 2-drink minimum clubs, and I've gotten a lot less. And then, here's where I made my first stupid mistake. I turned to the guy next to me, and I asked him, "Who is this guy?" He said, "God, that's Philip Levine. You don't know?" "No." He says, "This guy is famous. He's a big deal. He's a poet." No, look at him. He's got white tennis shoes, scuffed white tennis shoes, Levi's that don't fit, a horizontal t-shirt. He's got this jacket on his arm. There's no way that he's a poet. Where's the frock coat? Where's the cravat? Where's the flowery language? My God, he's already used the word fuck 2 times, and he hasn't even taken a roll. And I'm going, oh, man. And I was in, you know. And it was an evening class. And he talked of his wife's fantastic cooking. He says, I don't want anyone ruining my dinner. And I'm going, this is a potluck class. This is like, we bring our own food and we eat and we all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, my confidant that I just met, I said, what does he mean by that? He doesn't want us ruining his dinner. He said, you can't be writing bad poetry in here. Shit. I had no idea I signed up for a poetry writing class. And I'm going, poetry writing? I've never written a poem in my life. I've never read a poem that made any sense. I can't even read the schedule of courses correctly, for God's sakes, man. And that's, you know, that was my second mistake, my second, I don't know what you call it, nirvanic episode. But boy, oh boy, I ended up loving that class. I mean, I thought, God, this class just can't ever end. I just hope it just never does. During that time, I worked the night shift. No, the swing shift. Like I said, it was an evening class. I worked the swing shift, and I loved the class so much that I made a deal with the hospital that I worked at, that I would attend the class, and during a break, I would call them up. Now, mind you, this was in the T-Rex days, no cell phones. So I had to run to the library and make the phone call, get back up to class. And one time, the phone by the library was being taken by somebody, oh, who knows, you know, somebody who was breaking up with their spouse or something. And so I ran to the student union, made the phone call to the hospital, go back into class. And I'm not just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes late. I'm like a half hour late. But by this time, I had learned to respect Phil so much and what he did with poetry. And that when he's criticizing a poem or you're discussing a poem, it's intense. And here I come running into the class. I smelled like sweat and cigarettes. So God knows what he thought I was doing. And I was afraid to look at him. And I'm going to the side, you know, like, I'm not going to look at over here. But I was afraid, not that he was going to do anything to me. I wasn't that bad. But I was afraid I was going to see, I don't know, the raging eyes of Charles Manson or something. Somebody that was going to really, but it wasn't like that at all. And as luck would have it, I had a poem on the sheet that day. And guess what? I ruined his fucking dinner. There's just no, oh my goodness. I don't know what happened, when it happened, how it happened. But Philip Levine taught me how to live inside of a poem. Inside that poem, a world existed, both dark and beautiful, a world much greater than oneself and much more graceful. Phil came up and said, I think you belong here, in this world, among the music of words. Here, I'll open the door. I'll help you. And by God, he did. I'm going to read a little of that essay that I wrote where I have my jacket in it. I can't see the page. I don't know if Phil ever believed in magic, but I do know he took a group of us who at one time or another gazed at the August stars, heard car crashes from their apartment patios, and in winter immersed themselves between the fleece of Thule fog, and in summer were scoured by heat in their backyards and corrupted by the swirling dust spores of valley fever. Philip Levine taught us how to laugh at ourselves, how to respect poetry by spending our time to let the silence enter us. And just maybe, we might hear the furious beating heart of childhood, or get a glimpse of the thread of light wiggling beneath the moth's wing. Watch it as it ignites into a wheel of fire, so bright and beautiful and bold, and so deeply touches the human spirit. I am inadequate to call it anything but magic.